Hello again, and welcome back to your watercolor tutorials. As you can see, I have my disinfecting wipes holding up my phone this time. A little bit more strategy. I really didn't intend to use these wipes, but this was one of the biggest, tallest containers that I had in my house, and just really positions my phone pretty well. Now, as you can see, there's some different subjects on here. Some are better than others. That's just the point of this lesson, like we've talked about in class. But this is more of a complicated lesson, and it is multiple steps. So I do want to take the time to really go through how you're going to start this and the stages that should occur to make it into my best bird, which is probably this one. I struggle with this lesson too a little bit because, it's trial and error. It's watercolor. You make a mistake, it's on there. You can't really take the paint off, and you need to practice to get better at it. So as you can see, if we look at this packet, and we zoom in a little bit more, we really want to start over here. It does look like we want to start here if we're reading left to right like we usually do, but this is where it starts because this is a very much squeezed in image. I took this from a book, and you're actually supposed to read it from here. So, we want to look at these shapes before we do anything else. And as we could see over here, this is where you begin. All right, by making these shapes and these shapes. So I'm just going to show those to you in stages, and we're going to go from there. You can see this was my first bird. The head was just way too big. This is really the proportion, the size that we want. This was an accident that happened. My brush fell. But anyway, long story short, it doesn't matter what happens on this page as long as you have at least 4 different birds with a lot of different blossoms on a tree, you're good to go. So I'm going to just use this paper so you can kind of follow and kind of see that instead of making a giant shape to the head, we're going to just load our brush up a lot, but we're going to control the brush with our ability to hold it. So you have to get a little bit better. You need to know how much paint to put on this brush. You don't want to overdo it. You do want your paper towel handy as well. So you can see mine, I've used a bunch, tried it out a bunch of times. Hopefully you have some paper towels that I gave you in your folder, but you do need them for this lesson. All right, so as we start off like this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just swipe from left to right with a point. So I'm gonna start with my point here, I'm gonna press down, I'm gonna pull, and I'm gonna stop myself right around here, rather than continuing with a long stroke. Now off of it, I'm gonna make a little stroke here so that I make more of an organic shape to the head. And then I create one little feather right under it like this, just because that's what it shows in the packet. It's just the extension and the details off of that head. Now we're gonna look right here and see that this is a little bit too close together. The tail feathers are just a little bit too close to the upper body, the upper area of the wing. So we want to just proportion it and kind of really study this page and see the shape and the distance of each area. So as we're doing this, I'm just going to look at it. You can look at it too. And we're here about what we're going to do is we're going to press down with the brush. We're going to pull, make more of that teardrop shape that we're used to. And then we're going to just pull from one side, from the right side to the left side. You can see this looks a little bit more organic over here. There's a little bit of a line, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to add in a little bit of a blob-like shape to it. So it has some overlapping qualities to it. Feathers do overlap. They, go in all different directions. But as you can see, I'm now going to hold the brush horizontally, and I'm going to swipe to my right. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to pull, and I'm going to swipe this way, and we could see that automatically that made more of a round sense to my my wing. Now under here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move off to this left side a little bit, not go right underneath of it like this one is. This one's kind of right under it, and it doesn't really allow you the space to create these wings right here. So off of this left side, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, again, start with a point, but I'm just going to swipe and create that shape. Now off of it here, what I'm going to do is come to a point, press down, and come to a shape Now, if I take a little bit of paint off this brush, this won't do this, and it'll also create more of like a ridge to the bottom like feathers naturally have. There's small little details to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you, if I dry my brush a little bit, add a little bit of paint this time, and just kind of highlight and go over it again, I can create more of those nice natural senses to there. All right, now off of this, we're going to make the legs, and we're going to come right under here. Give yourself a little bit of space on a diagonal, and we're going to just swipe this way. All right, it's going to get a little bit smaller, but then as we come this way, we're going to overlap it with another couple lines this way, and we have that like triangular just shape. Now off of that, we're going to create some feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dry my brush again, change my color up to black. I'm skipping through the packet a little bit. It says that I should go now to the bill, but you know, detailing is next, so I'm just practicing with what is more comfortable for me and just demonstrating wise. I'm going to start here with a little bit of paint on my brush because I know I can control it with less paint, less water. I add a little bit of a knuckle right here, like you see in the packet if I get a little bit closer. Just trying to show that as well without all of this falling down this way. I don't know if I can handle it all. Yeah, it won't zoom in, allowing me to do it. So anyway, you can see there's a little bit of a knuckle, as you will. And what we're gonna do is just then from that knuckle, round it out, going to the left and then going to the right with just a little bit of paint on the brush. Now under it, the bird is sitting on its other foot and it's kind of hiding underneath the feathers that you will create. So I just made a smaller foot a little bit further back. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna just start to paint in the details, and this was when it gets a little tricky. If you don't have a little bit of paint on your brush by this point, you really wanna dry it off completely. You wanna make a point with your brush like this so that, again, you can make those details happen. You don't wanna dip in with a lot of water. You just put a little bit of black paint on that brush. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna connect up at this top center point of the head and create a line coming from here to here. It's gonna be the center point of the bill that I'm making, and I'm doing that. Now off of it, I can get very small qualities and lines and details. You're not really able to do that as well right off the bat because you're not used to it, but if you're holding your brush pretty upright, you can get those small lines. All right, now off of it, we're gonna go like this and just make more of a round shape coming downward like that. Now again, if we zoom in a little bit more, we can see right in here, this is what we're talking about. It's a little bit harder to see, but this is the shape and the quality of that bill. All right, now off of it, we're gonna make those eye rings and those details around it. We're gonna also add in the just areas of detail and feathers that go around its throat. We can also add in, as it says, the wings and the feet, and just detail from here. So I'm just gonna quickly do this for you. We're gonna start with a U shape. We're gonna filter it in right in that area that's void. We're gonna then just be careful with this because this is wet. I should really be working up here because this is dry, but you know, this one's a little bit better in terms of the space. So I'm just gonna do my best to operate around this, make a couple little details. The rings around the eye, then I'm gonna come in here like this and just make a dark highlight, which you can see a little bit better in your packet. All right, now off of this, we're gonna create some small lines in here for the feathers, the throat feathers. Kind of just add some dashes going in different directions. We don't want them just going down. We want them going to the side. We want them going all around to add in the enhancement that it's going in all varying directions. Okay, you can see I'm kind of just grazing where that area was a little bit wet just to transition it a little bit more. Now this goes against the traditional sense of Chinese brushstroke painting because we're adding more details to it, but this is the concept. As you get better at it, you can operate with your brush with that small detail. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm gonna add a little bit of black paint. I'm gonna dry my brush off completely. I'm gonna add some of that black paint here, and I'm just gonna swipe downward like this. Oops, that was brown, not black. I'm gonna swipe like this. Now you can see that was very dark, but if I take a little bit off the paint, a little bit off with the paper towel, I can do this. Now that's the concept of this, is that it should be dry brushing, and I should get some streaks as I'm doing it so that I can build up some of these highlights and add in that sense of just thin transition. I can also work in a dash horizontally this way to just kind of build up that roundness of the feather. Now under it, I'm going to do the same thing, just directionally, sharply go downward like this and kind of just build up around it. Now I can take and detail just a little bit like this and just kind of work into that area slightly so I create more of a clean sense to that shape. And then what I'm going to do is work into this area here, make it a little bit contrasting with that. Now, as this area is completely dry now, I can go back in with just a little bit of water on my brush, not anything else than water, and I can highlight so it's a gray bill, and it then transitions that space so it's not white anymore. So this is just a little bit of water on my brush. I can still see the detail of my lines in here, and that's it. All right, so you can see this might have been a little bit wet right here, so that I might have just, you know, if I was a little bit more patient, I could have avoided that from happening. But I'm going to make this look intentional in here. I'm going to make this look intentional, and I'm going to just detail it a little bit darker up top. All right, I can add a little bit more detail in here. I know I'm getting excessive with you right now, but the more detail, the better with this bird. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to paint in a branch very quickly. I know this is 11 minutes, so again, apologize that this is lengthy, but this is a tricky subject. So I'm going to pause it, start it again so that I can upload this quicker.